Let's see. Hang on now. Let me find it. All right. Let me go in here and close everything out over here. All right. Let's see. Let's see here.
I guess I'm deleting mine.
Here. Okay. Man, what a. Okay, we already got a few people in the house. So let me check the sound. Okay, we're good. All right. Okay. Let me share this out a little bit to the network.
I'm so glad you know about all this technical stuff because I sure don't. You know.
Celinda Reagan, that is a snake. We'll talk about that in a second.
Oh, somebody saw it.
Yeah, it's filling up pretty quick. I just want to get it over to the Soulgy group. See let's see. Okay, no wonder.
If somebody's bothered, I can put him away too. But he's used.
No one's bothered.
He's just
had a little. What kind of snake is that?
He's a corn snake. He's the friendliest snake I've ever had. He's incredibly affectionate. So he's very often during the day he's just loose on the table, and if I sit down, he crawls on my lap. So that's why we're here. But then I've also got a house lizard.
Okay, so we're good. Let's see. Make sure I got plenty of.
There's a bird in the back. In the back.
All right, we got 27 people in the house. Got some old faces and some new faces. So
great.
Cricket Holden. Yeah, we got Cricket Holden, Charlene Wall, Mary Cooper, Pamela Johnson. Pamela Johnson does. Yeah, it is. Pamela Johnson does some incredible work, like so many divine feminines, and for so many years. I just want to give her a shout out.
Great.
And Celinda Reagan, Angel Divine, Michelle Howard, my friend from England, Paula Hancock, Lydia Mayberry, Sue Baxter Fitz, Maria Spanner. Thank you for always sharing the Soul Speaks 5D, Maria. Janet Ann Gilliam, Paula C. Hancock, Darla Diaz, Katarina, Monique. Hey, Monique, how you doing? Hope you like your new job. Liliana Rad, Elizabeth Rudwick, David Brown. They're coming too fast now. So, all right. We got 31 people in the house. So let me formally roll the show out. And I just want to preface it, and I'm going to introduce our guests. But I want to preface this because I want to tell you that I came over to Sedona, as most people know, about 3 weeks ago. I came over, and I don't know how we keep this machine going. People with their $11.11 contributions, and they all add up, and I hit the wall, and we run out of money, and I have these talks with the universe. And today, I woke up and I was like, I just can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I'm tired of this yo-yo thing, and I'm, of course, I'm getting the same, the thing you're getting. That we're all getting in different ways. I've got Arcturians over here and Mother Goddess over here, and Magdalene over here, and Jesus over here, and I'll go, 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 go. And I got these indigenous, and I got the grandfather rocks and the 13 grandmothers, and I'm like, hey man, I can't do this, And I woke up, and it was my time. It was 10:10. I think it's when I saw it. 10:10. The next time I looked, it was 11:11. Then this lady sent me this lady sent me a note. And she's like, because I'm literally like zeroed out, right? I mean, I paid one more night. I'm like, okay, I won't worry about tomorrow. Then this beautiful lady sends me a note. She says, I want to put up a post with your permission and Morgan's permission. I'm going to send you $11.11, and I'm going to ask people to match it. And all of a sudden, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 come in. Then right? And so now to top it off, I got water on my face. I'm like, okay, we got to do this. I put the post up, and I just realized this is the 600th Soul Speaks 5D. 600. So that means something.
Yes.
And so, so it's all I know it's all going to be all right, you know, for everybody. And I just want to tell everybody, keep going, don't stop.
Yeah.
And so let me roll the show out. This is Soul Speaks 5D. For those of you who don't know me, who are here because of Stephanie, my name's Todd Medina, and Soul Speaks 5D is the primary show on the Soulogy Network. Yes, that is a snake. And today we're having a conversation.
It bothers you.
No, I like it. Today we're having a conversation with, and that's what we do here, with Stephanie Ark Hogarth out of New York. So welcome to the show. Thank you for honoring us. Thank you for honoring us. And you know, what I love about you is what you see is what you get. So I had gone to your blog post, your blog site, and I love your style, and I've been sharing your stuff, and I see your stuff in Soulogy. And then Morgan hit me up a couple days ago. Why haven't you interviewed this lady? I'm like, I looked at the message. I said, oh yeah, we were going to connect in New York.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah. But then I went to your Facebook page to get a picture, and I see all of these
stuff
pictures
happening on there, right?
I see all these pictures with these animals, like this wild turkey and the lizard, and So, and then you were telling me about this at the beginning of the show. So, I mean, before the show. So, I just want to ask you to go back over that again. You've got your life, your whole universal core there, with a collection of animals, you know, sentient beings. How did that all happen? Has that been something that you've been doing your whole life, or what?
My entire life. That's really why I'm here. So one thing I'd like to, it's all about establishing connections and bringing honor back to things that have been dishonored. So one thing I had said about, I really haven't put myself out there very much. I very much prefer to work behind the scenes with layers of energy and group over souls. I've always been able to connect with, even when I was a baby, my parents bred St. Bernards, and I thought my parents were boneheaded idiots. I loved them, but I really always thought that mentally they were dangerous because they were doing stupid shit like treating people, things like they were objects, like they were non-sentient, when I couldn't figure out when I was 2 why they were lying to everybody all the time about, you know, treating dogs like they're raising the dogs, but they're treating the dogs as though the dogs are dumb, or like they don't know what's going on, where in fact that, you know, animals have these incredibly, they are intelligent. It is sentience, and all sentience. So one of the things that I had said to myself, I just set the intention that I want to do, is that every time, this is my first interview, and I know already that it's not going to be the last. There's going to be a lot more of them. I've been, there have, Aluna Ash had mentioned it, and I've just known it was coming for a long time. I've been not very comfortable with it at all, but I just knew it was coming. But one of the things that I said, okay, if I have to go through this, and I know exactly what it's for, and I know that it's my karma to do X, Y, Z. One of the things that I find a very sacred duty and honor, really, is to serve as a voice for those who have not been heard, or dishonored, or thought that. So I already know that the audience that is listening to this, it's like I'm preaching to the choir, because the people who are hearing this, who are already connected with you, if they're listening to this, if these words are meeting their ears, it's because there's a vibrational match already. So I don't need to convince anybody of this, because these people already know. I get that. But I had set the intention that every time my energy goes out, it's not just going to be from me personally. There is no me personally. I'm going to bring all. Ooh, there it is.
It's all right. We're with you.
I knew that was going to happen. I was actually
okay.
I knew that was going to happen.
600 episodes. I've cried at least 20 times.
No, I was actually going to say that to you. I already, my guides had told me that when I cry during this episode, it's not from me. I already know that. It's from the, ooh, there it is again. This started last night in preparation for today. I was doing a lot of energy work with layers of, what's the word? Sorry, hang on.
It's okay. We got you.
Layers of elementals.
Yeah.
That very, very much want to speak. So
yeah.
I keep trying to get this point. Literally, one of the things that I had said was that every time my energy comes across, I want it to carry the energy of delegates from their species. I want there to be plants. I want there to be the, I have already called in the energy of water. I've got crystals all around me. I've got a lizard sitting on my chair that you can't see. I've got the snake here. Dogs are in the other room, but they're here. I called in the energy of just the land, the trees. Last night, a whole bunch of newts showed up. We had, I didn't expect this, but when the light language came in, last night, I started connecting with an area, a specific area of woods where I've spent a great deal of time, where the beings want to speak. And I know that I often speak for the energies that are coming in from above, but the energies that are coming up from below, apparently, today asked for a conduit. So I did set the intention a long time ago that whenever they told me at some point I'm going to be traveling, and I know that there's a book coming, and I know that that's coming. And I was given, I'm not comfortable with it, but I know it's coming. And one of the things that they had said was, when you travel, you're going to want an array, the spectrum. We need to have delegates from the spectrum. And I'm not going to go say, I want you and you and you and you. I'm never going to do that. I'm going to call in volunteers from the kingdoms and say who, same way I do with my crystals. When I travel with my crystals to various events, I take my crystals on outings a lot. I fill up a basket. And when I go to, say, a sacred ceremony for something, I will travel around the house with my basket and I will say, well, I'm going to this thing. Who wants to come with me? And I ask the crystals and I see who wants to come and I put them in the basket. Same thing with all of my animals. I'll say, who wants to come be on the show today? There's going to be in the background. So we need your energy. I'm calling in whoever wants to contribute. I will be the voice. I'm going to translate the energies into English. But the transmission is going to go out to everyone. So right now, you're getting my energy, but you're also getting Kenji's energy, who is the best delegate ever of snakedom. He's phenomenal. Friendliest snake I've had a lot of snakes, and you know, I traveled around and brought them to classrooms for a while. But this one is he's a special one. He's incredibly friendly and snuggly. He's actually snuggly. I'm gonna put you in your basket. When he comes out, he might come back out. He likes to sit on my lap. But anyway, I just said that wherever I go, I want there to be a wide array of elements of the natural spectrum so that they travel, so that at no point do I think that I speak for just myself.
Exactly.
That's important.
So when you said you get, and we'll just use these human terms, you pull in transmissions, downloads from above or higher dimensions, what we would call higher dimensions.
Yep.
But you were feeling the pull from below. Now, are you talking strictly the elementals and the sentients? Or are you talking also inner earth?
Oh my gosh. Lately, especially, it's fantastic. I think it's supposed to work this way. It's really gone through the roof. I know I'm not alone in this either. But you know how, like, when you walk through, let's say, a diner, and you're smelling things as you go along, and you're overhearing snippets of conversations as you go along, and you can't turn that off. At least I can't. There are some people who can turn off their awareness. I've never been able to do that. I kind of envy that as a skill, but so far I have yet to develop it. So recently, I have noticed that the downloads that I got have really been changing, and they're coming from, I've gotten downloads from above where something is just, downloads where something is just suddenly dropped in whole into your head. But recently, I'm allowed to tell you why off camera. I asked somebody today if I could make mention of something that they cleared me of 2 days ago, unbeknownst to me. And he said, don't use my name, but I can tell you off camera. Apparently, I was wondering why I wasn't getting light language, and I was feeling interference. And I know I'm not alone. A lot of light workers get interference. And I've been very active in clearing my own dark, blockages, etc. But somebody cleared them for me. He asked if I wanted them cleared, and I said yes, but then I didn't hear from him. He cleared them when I said yes, please, I want help clearing this. Apparently, they were cleared in that instant, and but I didn't hear from him, so I didn't know this had happened. I thought we were going to work together, and that's when apparently he cleared 900 entities. I know that I'm very absorbent to entity attachments. I've always been that way. But apparently he cleared them. And if you've been on my Facebook wall, you know that just recently I just got in light language in a totally different way and multiple downloads in a totally different way. What I didn't know was that he's the one who finally cleared out the interference so that I was finally a clear channel, and all that stuff started coming in right away. So
now I wonder as we evolve and expand and our awareness expands, I often wonder how that works, because I know we're coming from like an old paradigm, even from the light worker paradigm, which there was a lot of, healing going from one person to another, let's say. But it seems like there's been more and more self-empowerment. Do you think, I'm just curious, because there's no right or wrong, I'm just curious. Do you think in that moment when you said yes, that was in some way your fully aligned aspects?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I think, and actually somebody just asked me this the other day. They said, how do you get these downloads, or what is it that draws it in? And what I really think it is the strength of the desire. It's the strength of that it's the yearning for, actually, this is the third time this has come up in 2 days. Because somebody else had just asked me that too. She said, why is it that your Kundalini rose so fast? And because it did in 2013, just shot up, and I got the full awakening. But I know that some people try to awaken their Kundalini. I never did. I never tried to get the Kundalini to rise at all. I didn't know what it was. But my yearning to know, my love of God, I just wanted to know. I was asking so hard. It's the intensity of the desire and the intensity of the serve that is really going to be the momentum.
Oh, I love this. And I want to ask you this too. I love your mind. I think this is the 600th episode, and there is a reason for it. So I was listening to somebody that I have a lot of respect for, and I don't listen to a lot of people, but I just happen to be listening to it. This is just in the last few hours, last night, and they were talking about, because everybody's got their own take on it. They were talking about emotion, and they were talking about how we're not our emotions. Now, I was going into sleep, and I was thinking to myself, you know what? I have, as these energies have come in, especially this month, I've had like this, like many of us, I've had like this separation. Like I'm sitting here watching my human, me, which I know is the most important aspect, And so I'm like, wait, I'm over here, and he's down there, and he's walking around, and I didn't feel emotion. I was not feeling this emotion. I wasn't feeling it towards other people. And I thought to myself, well, how does this work? Because one thing I do know is that every time I get deep in my desires and my emotion, and I command, not in a bad way, not in a self-serving way, but I command from the universe alignment and abundance or whatever, it always works. So I thought, well, how does this going to work if we're becoming emotionless? How is this thing going to work? Do you have any thoughts on that since you brought that up?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked. Sorry, now I can't see, so I have to put my glasses back on. My snake gets tangled up in my glasses, so I take them off. It is so important to go in both the directions. The weird thing, the point of power is always in the center, but there is this magical thing regarding divine paradox where you need both ends of the stick. And the most power comes from, you can't pull on just one end of a rubber band. I say this all the time, where the dark side and the light side, or any polarity always works together. And what you need, the most powerful thing you can do, is to get the greatest degree of this, like the strongest light and the darkest dark, or when you can touch the very, very highest vibration while also being totally grounded. When those two things are completely balanced, and that is the magical spot. But if you're tepid about it, if you need this amount of polarity, then there's no passion.
You know what? I absolutely, I love that explanation, and I just got my own little epiphany, which is, what is the human? What is the human? What's different about the human than all of our other multidimensional aspects? I'm not taking anything away from it because it's all us. And you know what I think it is? I think it's the human heart. I think it's that heart that's been broken, that heart's been suffered, been through pain, been through trials and tribulations, but that has never given up and has a perseverance that has actually impressed the hell out of the universe. Yeah. And so I love what you're saying, because you're taking what we might have, the thing we want to get away from all this time, and we're taking the place we want to go, and we're bringing them together, and that is the magic. That's the alchemy. Thank you, goddess.
Yeah. So here's the groovy thing about it, because that's such a good question. I have talked a lot about the process of manifestation, and this can shoot off into so many different avenues of conversation. They all need to be addressed. They really do. But particularly regarding manifestation being so much like driving a car, where you see something ahead or you want something, and there is this thing where you've got to balance. It's so important to have all of these things in your toolkit. I guess that's a better way to say it, where you need to have an ability to be completely detached, and be able to call on a detachment that is so just almost cold-blooded for the purpose of looking at something objectively. So one of the things about the law of attraction is that, so it's like driving a car. The law of attraction, in my mind, is often misunderstood. There's like the supermarket version that in the
secret.
Yeah. And those of us who know the law of attraction are like, yeah, sit down, Tic Tac.
Right. Well, yeah.
I'm not saying it's wrong, but it's kindergarten. There's, nothing there is bad, and you have to reach your population where they are. So if we gave them this massive amount of information that was really deep and esoteric and complete, nobody would buy it. It wouldn't. You have to reach them where they are. So the secret version, I'm not actually knocking it. It belongs in the supermarket. There's a version for every level, and then as you go up, it's like anything else. You're going to get more information. Then you're going to get this complete knowing and power. It's going to expand. But those of us who actually do this work, it's a smirk. We look at it and we say, okay, that's where you are. But
and in respect to that, and you're right. But for all of us, what got us to a certain level, or even people that got us to a certain level, or relationships or whatever, aren't necessarily going to get us to the next one. And this is part of this whole process is leaving this stuff behind. And that goes back to what you're talking about with that almost cold-blooded, higher self, everything's all right, everything's love. And then that other part of us, which is becoming that divine human soul, this is a great conversation, which is what you pointed out. Those two meet, and that's where the alchemy is. That's where
the magic is. But the more power you have, it's kind of like a stick where one end is black and one end is white. If it's a short stick, you can't use it for a lot of leverage. If it's a really long stick, you can do shit with it, like big stuff. So you're going to have a icy kind of detachment when you're looking at something that's really ugly. But you have to be able to look at it. So one of the misconceptions I think about the law of attraction is it's true, but it's only true to a point, is that, it's kind of like being in a, hang on a minute. I've got 2 points going on. 1 second.
It's all right. I do the same thing.
Yeah. In higher dimensions, we have we communicate in a different way. So bringing it back down to one linear point is sometimes challenging for those of us who are used to having 5 different conversations simultaneously and they're all moving. One of the misconceptions, even though it's true, but it's not complete, is that you get what you think about. So don't look at the things you don't want. Okay, that's true. On the other hand, there's a caveat that comes with that, because if people can get away with a lot of shit if you're not willing to see it. So a better way that, I like to look at it is that you need to be able to look at everything like politics, like pedophilia in the church, where you need to be able, in order to get the crap out of the way, you really have to be able to see where is it, what are we talking about, and then what are we going to do about it. So the analogy that I like to use is that of driving. It's a car. You're your vehicle, and you are going to go, so your steering, where you look at is the steering wheel. That's your attention. So something is going to be in the road, and if it's something that you know is nasty, let's say it's pedophilia in the church, or it's corruption, or something that really needs to be taken care of, don't step on the gas, because then you're going to hit it. If your wheels are pointed in this direction, if you feel strongly about it, if you hate it, boy, do I have a good example for this in a second. If you have a strong emotion while you're looking at that thing, well, guess what brought it about? You just made that thing. Think Trump. So the reason we have a blimp that's negative, that's taking over, that's absolutely horrible. Kavanaugh's another one. We made that thing by our culture. It's like a bicycle pump. When we look at something and we have a strong emotion, and we then, especially if we verbalize it, we say, you are terrible, you are terrible, you are terrible, I hate you. We made a blimp, but we're here. See, this is the thing. People don't understand that this is where they gave their power away. Because I'm never going to tell somebody that they can look at something that they don't like and have to tolerate it, or say, you can be that's a time for detachment, where you can say, these are the aspects about you that are non-negotiable and I don't like them. I'm calling it out. I'm not going to allow that. And then you can take a cold, calculated action from a place of complete detachment. Yeah. And it will work.
I like what you said about the got a little feedback. Hang on. I like what you said about the car.
Yeah. So you can do this. If you see something in your timeline on the road that you want, you can. And that's where the intention comes in, where you look at it, you point your wheels in that direction, and then you just love the hell out of it, and you go really fast, and it's yours.
Yeah. Well, and then on the other side of it, how are you gonna have anything to compare it to? How are you going to know what beautiful is, and how are you going to know what desirable is? If you're driving down the road, you see neighborhoods or streets or whatever objects that you don't resonate with, then you got to have something to contrast it. I love that analogy, because it's really a microcosm of our daily life.
Always. So the beautiful thing about contrast, you really, you know, at no point do you, I shouldn't say at no point, you need that experience too, but it is just like that. Like you don't want there to be no darkness. You're going to need that. Yeah. One creates the other. It goes back to their, you know, you can't pull on just one side of a rubber band. You have to, it's kind of like, I don't want to say this. Well, the darkness creates the light. You know,
I totally get that.
Yeah.
I mean, on my own journey, I was told when I started 7 years ago and I was on the streets, because of my conditioning, you know, I referred to source as God in the masculine, and then I was shown what I was told was the mother was the holy darkness. And then they took me through this thing and they said, okay, well, how can you what do? You have light, then you turn the light off? Or do you have darkness and what does it say in the sacred books? It says, let there be light. So as far as I'm concerned, the light is our gift, you know, that's where the gold is. And you talked about that at the beginning.
Yeah. There's the energetic platform that encompasses everything. And the light side and the dark side advance in different ways. They're aggressive, and not aggressive is probably the wrong word, but they advance in certain ways. Even when we talk about negative darkness, there's there's a positive aspect to the darkness. There's a negative aspect to the darkness too. Then there's a positive aspect of the light. Then there's a negative aspect of the light too. The negative aspect of the light is very aggressive and assertive and it's like too aggressive and masculine. And outgoing, and it shocks. And you know, if you've ever been, who hasn't, if you've ever been asleep and somebody, you just want to be left alone, but somebody turns a bright light on, it's aggressive, it's hostile. The darkness advances and it engulfs, it's a shadow that engulfs, it absorbs everything. You know, the black color absorbs everything. So the energetic platform that is darkness, it always makes me think of the reptilians and the military. They advance in different ways, but there's always this oppositional force. I'm fascinated with oppositional forces. I really lately, ever since the Joan memories came back in 2013, I could talk about downloads.
What kind of memories was that? Did you say?
You were on my blog. It's not something that I really want to promote, but my past life of having been came back with a whole bunch of military knowledge about, and it did. And I mean, like downloads of battle tactics and things you have to consider and terrain and how to read landscape. And the interesting thing, the reason it's applicable to me now is because it really, I must say, it really is useful when I'm thinking about oppositional forces, not so much at all, actually, not at all to get them to compete, but what each side needs, how best to serve, what is this side getting fed from? Because I do sit in the Council of Balance that's in the 12th dimension, and one of the universal laws of the Council of Balance is that neither side has the right to tell the other side that they may not exist.
Yeah.
You are in opposition. There is going to be natural opposition, but everyone in the Council of Balance, I'm a representative of the dark side, but if anybody attacked the light side, I would be the first, the dark side, I would be the first one to defend them. Both sides have needs that are reasonable and need to be fulfilled. And also being, embodied on Earth, that is a very fascinating thing to observe. I watch it playing out in everywhere. I just absolutely friggin' everywhere. The financial system, political system, the social structure, it's all over the place, but you realize that this force is acting out of something that it needs, and it's going to have I'm fascinated with the way things balance and what is going to have to happen, coming up with strategies like if in order to get this to occur over here, what is this side going to have to do? And whenever we reach a place of complete stasis, in order to get it to move again, we figure, okay, what has to be tweaked? Where is the hanging spot? And how it's like, how the hell do we fix it? We've got to start tinkering. And it's the point, one of the things I know is that every single time you are observing something, anything, because the world is our moving mirror, each one of us, and any time on any level, personal or galactic, anytime you're watching something out there, that anything external that you don't like, you're never going to, you have no power whatsoever to change that. You always have to be able to identify what the hell is it that's matching, because it's going to be a match somewhere.
With you, right?
Yeah.
So what you're saying is, which is brilliant. So really, if we take that into ourselves, this whole dark and light thing, without sounding new age or cliche-ish, because it's not, it's really, again, we're driving down the road, and if we see this stuff that doesn't resonate, it just means that it's still part of us. It just means that we choose, with our experience and the contrasting histories that we've been given, and the ability to manifest and create bliss and align with ourselves, that we just choose not to. But it's sitting there dormant and respected and loved and honored, right? Yeah.
Also, the thing is, like, if you know what your abilities are, and you like I have totally found this in my own life. Let's say I'm driving down the road and I see that there's a very high probability for something, and I'm not digging it. Like, boy, I really want to avoid that. And then I suddenly wind up smack dab in the middle of it, even though I know all these tricks to use, and I know I employed them. So why the fuck am I here again? Like, I think I heard you say that. It might have been when you were talking to Katie Indigo, someone. You said there's always this. It is our souls. Sometimes our souls come over and we can't steer around something. Like, I know that there are certain things, like, man, I do not want to go back in there. I know that thing, and I don't want to go over there. I'm going to steer my car this way, and I'm going to go another direction, because I just want to make sure that I want to avoid that. And then there's like some kind of, tower card moment, and you find yourself, you're like, fuck, I'm back here. How the hell did I get back here? With all of my knowledge, how did I get back here?
Yeah. And I wonder about that. Yeah, I wonder about that, especially with all this, and I want to talk about the energies, because you were talking about it before the show. But lately, there's been a lot of this self-judgment, self-consciousness, second guessing, and I wonder if from that higher level, if that was a hook to put us back in those situations we'd never go back into, to get us beyond that. Because I'm noticing, we're talking with Morgan and observing some other people, that for certain people, which is not differentiating us in any way of equality or hierarchy, but certain people, this stuff is starting to bounce off of us.
Yep.
It comes in and it just bounces off. It doesn't linger. I didn't linger here this morning thinking, oh my God, I'm sick of this. Yeah. I'm tired of this. It was just a little bitty temper tantrum, as opposed to a really long, prolonged all day one.
Yes. Yeah, no, I totally get that. And here's what I think it is. I am so glad you mentioned that too, because one of the things I have really noticed is that none of us are here to just do this for ourselves. So one of the things that I really noticed is that just recently, the past couple of years, I hit the ground really, really hard in 2013, where it's like one of those major tower moments where I had been someone who I was never knocked off balance. I was never knocked off balance. I had the abundance. I had the just balance. I was never all fucked up. And then It took, I just never was. It's like I've been doing this work for a long time. I've got the energy healing. I know what to do. I know how to drive. It's like I just know how to drive. I'm a really good driver, and I was. It took not just one calamity, and I don't mean to sound condescending, but I just know there's certain times when you just know you need to also be aware of when you really are really strong. Like I know that there are certain people where I'm not trying to talk down, but like if they get really, really upset if, A, B, C, D, F, G, whatever, X, Y, Z happens to them. And I can't even figure out, like, you're upset about that? Like, that could, I've gone through so many experiences that it takes a lot to get me to come down. Yeah. So in 2013 and the last 5 years, the number of things that had to happen simultaneously, I needed to have my face hit the land on my face on the asphalt in order to even to bring me down to a level where I was that upset, but toward a purpose. So that's one of the things that but it wasn't just 5 things. It wasn't just 10 things. It was like, whoa,
That's a common trait of a lot of us. and I love what you said, and I just want to reiterate it because I think, again, it's not always the words. It's not the words. It's the intentions of our heart, the heart of our intentions, and all this invisible coding and stuff going back and forth and amongst everybody here. But you said something. So on one end, because I want to have 2 points here. One is that in a nutshell, you said you've got to be at that most on one end of the rubber band or the stick. You got to have this total vulnerability, this total I surrender. But on the other side, you've got this detached, almost cold, higher self, pure love thing, right? And then the other thing I was going to say, which you made me think about, and go back into my days when I was walking the streets, and I was effed up, but at the same time, I was as strong as I'd ever been. It was like it was both polarities being held in balance. They were just extremes, And I look back at that now, and I just want to add too that strength came from the holy darkness, and it was pure Mother Goddess energy.
Absolutely.
I didn't know it at the time, but that was not the masculine macho man, warrior, alpha male. That was the mother darkness right there. Yeah.
Yes. And there is something so important here. I'm so glad you brought it up. So the other day, because my finances just are in the trash right now. I'm overdrawn on my bank balance. I went to social services, even though I knew I wasn't going. For a number of different reasons. Sometimes we go into a system. This is also branching off to couple of different topics. But sometimes we go into systems right into the heart of them because our soul has a contract that in order to bust the walls that are fucking up with everybody, you have to take some kind of incarnational position where you go as deep into this thing as you possibly can in order to break the system. You have to go into the situation in order to change it by exploding. So I found myself at social services, and I want to get back to the point of the feminine because I really have something to say about that. But it's also connected to this thing. I went to social services the other day, and number one, no big deal about social services, but nothing I did worked. And when I went, I wound up spending over 4 hours there for a simple appointment. And after you've been around, you sense energies, and I could tell that there are energetic blocks. I could tell that none of this stuff was going to work for me. I knew it in advance. I would go to a window, and literally moments before everything had been working, and when I stepped up to the window, every machine they had broke.
Yeah,
so
I've been there.
It's really funny though, but it broke, and I could tell that because I was just observing it, yes, from a place of detachment. In the past, in certain points, it might have brought up, a certain amount of frustration, or why the hell do I have to be here? But I was thinking, I did ask the question, why am I here? I know that something bigger than me is going on. It turns out it was two things. One of them was that as soon as I walked in the door, I got a massive amount of downloads instantly. I couldn't keep, it was actually fortunate that I had to wait for 4 hours because I was writing so fast. I had a notepad and I was writing all of these observations. And if I hadn't been sitting in the waiting room, I wouldn't have received the information needed that I could scan the group. And I was thinking, why am I here? I'm not just here to ruin their machinery, although I did. And it wasn't just the one machine. It was every window I went to. And I didn't say, oh, that was me. I did that. I didn't take any credit. But I know that it happened. I busted their, I may not have busted it. It was working for everybody, but it didn't work for me, which is why I know this system isn't going to work for me. I know that I'm here to bust that. There's a particular thing that I know I'm going to break. I'll put it that way. But I know that I was put into this situation specifically to ruin the Mobius strip that is the intertwined 3D systems that are reinforcing one another, that are keeping the entire system going, that all need to come crashing down. They all do. You can't break just one at a time. You have to break all of them all at once. And I knew that when I went into social services, that like every force evolves a form. I say that all the time. It's always true. Their machine broke because the energy that I carry doesn't allow that to continue.
Yeah.
The other machine, when I went to the other office and they said, we need to fingerprint you, put your fingers on this machine. And no matter how many times they tried it, it didn't register my fingerprints. But they called in the supervisor, they called in other people. It worked for everybody else. My fingers are invisible.
I'm wondering why the Men in Black didn't show up and they identify you as an ET.
I tell you why. I do. Seriously, David Wilcock mentioned this, and he's right. There is a universal law that says you are not allowed to interfere with the Red Cross workers. If the Red Cross workers are 100% in integrity, that being the caveat, that's why. That's one of the things. Like if you, if I fall out of integrity, the exterior will. It will allow an in because there will suddenly be, they will have an avenue to get to me. If I stand 100% in my integrity all the time, they can't reach me.
Right.
It's actually a universal law. But one of the things I wanted to say about being at social services, because I was there for a really long time, and then I was told to come back, and then, but also nothing was working. Like when I filled out the paperwork, I was told that it had to go to a different office and I can't get another appointment there for a month. So it's like I was told to go to a different window repeatedly. I was told to come back in 2 hours and I had to return. And I was thinking, I know that my energetic field is needed at this location, because every time you come in with an energetic field that is the like the dominant tuning fork, people who are asleep or who are themselves radiating at not so strong, there's not radiating so strong, your field is going to dominate theirs. So I was observing what was happening with the energy while I waited for all of these people who never showed up.
It's almost like the literal physicality, the physical experience, and the things you could observe with the five senses was a copy of really what was happening energetically.
Always.
Because I know, like for me, because you were making me laugh when you started the story, I didn't have like when I was involved in that, I didn't have all the electronic stuff happening, but there just got to the point each time I went, it was just like you just don't fit. Like you've made your impression. You've done your thing. It's time to go. It's like the magnets, to and they just repel each other. Yeah.
Those of us who have energetic fields, and I know you're one of them, those of us who have energetic fields, we go into certain circumstances to screw up the system that is keeping others imprisoned. It's no longer is it about us. So I recognize, just to go back to your point before, that where you said, why am I in this situation again? Or I said that too, but you want to avoid this thing, but nevertheless, you find yourself there again.
Yeah.
And I know that with the financial system, certainly, and you don't know that much of my history, but I've been there before, and I was raised and we were homeless, and this is a circumstance, a pattern that I know really, really well. So when I find myself back there and I'm carrying an energetic field that says, I know what this game is, and I know the way out, and you become like Sojourner Truth, who didn't go back to the slave country because she loved slavery. It's because she went back because she knew how to get out. Yeah. And she said, I know that I recognize that those people are in prison, and I'm going to go and show you what to do. So we don't have to go up to, I didn't have to go up to any of the people in the waiting room and say, hi, I know how to get out, and convince them you want to sign this document. What you need to do is raise your vibration. That would just get you knocked out the door. What I need to do is be the dominant energy that on an energetic level is the force that evolves the form that is going to change them without it. There's a way to influence people without it being Machiavellian.
Yeah, and it's really your own energy, like you said a minute ago. If you're out of integrity, if you give up any ground, something's going to fill it in, and we know what that is. So, but like I want to, and the other thing too, because I love what you said about, I really do. I really, it really was beneficial to me about the whole thing about the total vulnerability on one end and our higher self with its cold, almost inhumane, emotional. But so that today, when this happened to me today, and again, I recognize it's a pattern. But what I love about this example you're giving about the Sojourner Truth is that when I was laying here and the tears started to come, and I didn't get angry, and I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to feel this.
Yes.
I'm going to feel this. Yes. I'm just going to let it. I'm going to feel it, and I'm going to allow these tears to come, and it just was 5-6 minutes, man. And I'm telling you, the numbers started coming, and the lady wrote the message, and then it just, and I thought, you know what? What the hell? I'm divinity. What are they going to do to me? They hadn't already done.
Yeah, exactly.
There is no day anyway. It's not the day. It's just me, right?
That all the time. I say that to myself all the time. What the hell are they going to do? Kill me? I love death. I do. I love death. I can't. What the fuck else are you going to do to me? There's no way you can possibly harm me. The only thing they could do is make me suffer. And I freaking Joan of Arc. There's nothing.
Yeah, but Busset, this guy that writes out of Brazil, another synchronicity this morning. So I wasn't in the mood to share stuff to the Soulogy group, but I just happened to turn on the news feed, and he had a meme up, and it said, you have to die a little bit so you can rise. And I just said, I'm sharing that one, and I put over and over and over.
I know, constantly, just bring it. But
right.
you would rise a little like the phoenix, and we're back on top a little bit more. It's always about expansion, always. Yeah. And one thing I want to mention that because you are such a gift to women. You're a gift to all of us, but you really are a gift to the divine feminine because not enough men do this. I recognized when I was in social services that I got to really thinking about the rise of the divine feminine and what I was there to deliver. Every time you want to receive something, what you want to do to prime the pump is to deliver as much as possible, which is sometimes difficult when you feel like crap, you don't have any money, and you're depleted. And the light army historically has been unbelievably depleted. And the dark army, and now I do think in these terms of dark armies and light army. I think about it a lot, but that's
explanation. Yeah, I agree.
True.
Yeah,
it's really true. And on the, I will say that on the Council balance, it's all about. I don't play chess, but I know it's like chess. It's move and counter move and strategy. How are we going to? I know that. The masculine force on the planet, I don't think anyone's going to argue this, 555. The masculine force on the planet has been off the charts and in imbalance. The 3D planet, even though we aren't tacked, we aren't anchored the way we were. For the most part, it's still a prison planet until we get out. And the thing that's keeping us down there is the imbalance, because even though 5D is not a location, in order to rise to 5D, there are certain qualities that absolutely must be met. And one of them is balance of the masculine and feminine within ourselves. So as long as we're thinking of things even though I just said I'm thinking of things in terms of competition, but really only as not competition, as a means to balance it. You do need to be able to think in terms of duality, but not live there. In terms of getting, I was looking at the what needs to happen. So one of the things that needs to happen, the primary thing that needs to happen on the planet now, overall, because it's the energy that is affecting all of the systems. The systems are the form. The force that is evolving, that has evolved into the form, is the imbalance of the forces, the imbalance of the energies that has evolved into a form of imbalance that has affected. It's a fractal universe, so a larger fractal, energetically speaking, is going to evolve into a dense version of itself. So we know that we now have this planet where the masculine force it's better than it was, but it's really strong. And we are not going to be able to lift the entire planet until the planet reaches that place of
balance.
Equal.
Yeah. And, that's a great point. I want to make a point too.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure and take you back to what you said you wanted to come back to, which was the mother goddess energy, the feminine energy. But I noticed something. I've noticed something because this whole masculine and feminine discussion, so many of these 600 shows, and we're coming from a place where we're learning, and you can only see what you can see. So we expand and we learn more and all that. But it certainly began in a very much, in terms of our physical incarnation, our gender's incarnation, for the most part, And so I've watched it go up, and then in the last 3 or 4 months, I see this masculine energy surfacing and making its move, because the feminine energy has been leading the way. And again, I'm really speaking energetically in all of us. And this is the point I wanted to make, is I'm watching, even within myself over the last 4 or 5 months, I'm watching this masculine energy both kick and scream over here and rise in a divine fashion here. But I'm seeing it not just in men. And there's a lot of men taking a beating right now, and bless them, and they're going to make their way out of it. But I also see this masculine energy in women, and some very high vibrational women. And these are the characteristics of control and infringement on people's space. And entitlement and little brat, maybe, would be another one. But you know what I'm talking about. So I just want to say that, and I thank you for letting me share, and then take you back to, you said you wanted to talk a little bit about this mother goddess energy when we were talking earlier. Do you remember?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I like to do is look at, psychically, I have a very difficult time even finding the third dimension sometimes. So sometimes it's less about what's happening in form. I like to look at what's happening, although that's certainly informative. I like to look at what's happening energetically and figure out and sense where the imbalance is. And one of the things I'm finding, and this is what also, to bring it back to social services, this is what I discovered when I was at social services. And this is actually the answer to would be my answer to your question. Women in the third dimension have been the overdoers or the overservers or the almost compulsive. Do. You have to get in there and do. And there's a shame and the thing that I noticed in the waiting room of social services is that a couple of things happened. I was noticing that even though people are, the people are there to help, like the people at the window weren't mean. They weren't trying to make me feel bad about myself. But I was also noticing this on my Facebook wall. I think I mentioned something to you, but there was a thread about,
oh, yeah. I remember.
There was a thread that was fascinating where, and it happened to be my brother, which he also gave me some money. So it was nice. I'm not knocking him, but it made me recognize the amount of blame. If people are embarrassed to receive, they're blamed for receiving. They're degraded for being in a position where they're not pulling their own weight. You should get up. You should get up and do more. Do work for a living. So there's this thing where not only women, but it's a looking down and a shame just on the receiving force or the force. The force that is just sitting there. Yeah. There are people who we've been trained in our culture to look at someone. Right. You're lazy. You're bad.
Yeah.
You know, bad you for not doing. So a lot of the imbalance of the feminine is coming from hidden misogyny. It's from hidden misogyny,
which affects the man too.
Totally.
We're talking energies.
Totally.
This is beautiful because this was my thought process this morning. My thought process was 2 times the goddesses come to me and said, "Get up off your ass. Everything, the universe is everything external. You've contributed to building this energy. You can be vulnerable. Get on the camera. Be vulnerable. These brothers and sisters are the universe. Yes. And the universe will reciprocate. Don't be afraid to ask." Now, this morning, I got up, I thought, man, I can't get on there and I can't tell people what's happening. I mean, I just, I was in that mode.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm bringing this up is because over the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've seen, and we've seen this even beyond that, where people are saying, oh, you shouldn't charge for, your modalities, your practitioner stuff, or your this or that. I agree with you. I don't care who it is. Do something. Make a decision. And if anybody says anything about it, F them from the heart. Yeah. And that's what you were talking about earlier, that almost coldness. Look, unconditional love. I mean, unconditional love. We know what that game is. But at the same time, we're playing a human transitionary game. And we've got to put our best foot forward. We got to put our best foot forward. So I may not charge for a healing session, but if somebody else does, I'm going to respect that and keep my mouth shut about it.
There is a transitional thing too that we're moving into. And at some point earlier, before you started the show, I thought at some point I've got to talk to you, and I would like to talk to you about Nisara, Gasara, the RV. There's a whole bunch of, there's a strategy, there's a sequence that I believe very strongly certain things, it's the same way we work our way up into freedom from a place of entrapment. There is a way to get, and this is why I was at social services, because I'm thinking my vibration knows how to get, I know how to get out of this. And I'm here to lead these people vibrationally. There's a strategy, and we can't go, the freedom is so far in a different bandwidth. It's so far away from what these people are experiencing, and their consciousness isn't there yet, and you have to meet your population where they are. It has to be to go back to the stick analogy, it requires a very, very long ladder to bridge the gap from something that is this trapped to something that is that free. So so that's why we can't knock any single rung, because we're going to need we're going to need people to be bridges. We're going to need somebody at the bottom. We're going to need somebody to hold the ladder. We're going to need somebody at the bottom. We're going to need somebody in the middle. We're going to need somebody at the top to tell people where to, to help people we're all climbing our way home.
That's funny you use that metaphor, because I just remember this. I hadn't even told Morgan. So I had this thing, this dimensional experience transmission, and it was about 4 or 5 days ago. And so it was the bridge, it was the bridge, and we were all going, but it was a ladder, and I was holding up the ladder with somebody else. And so the message to me was like, you're the last one getting out of here. So, get to work.
So that's a confirmation, because I got that too, that they gave me this line. They gave me this one line that said, the first to be called and the last to come. Yeah. Which is where the two extremes meet. The first.
Were you the dragon holding the other side of the ladder?
Probably. It's 6:06, by the way.
We're running over. You okay with that?
I'm great. I'm delighted. But yeah, we're just going to let it go where it goes. But there was something else I was going to say about the, I can't remember what it was now. Bring it back in if you want me to say it. Whatever.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is a great 600th show.
I'm delighted.
Right.
I'm thrilled. And there are 88 people, I see. That's good. So what else would you like to bring in? There was something else about the financials. Oh, the financial system. So there are the necessary strata, necessary rungs of the ladder. So while I was in social services, I know, this thing. And they just gave, thank you. I asked for you to give me the topics that needed to be discussed, and you just gave me 3. One of the things that I realized when I was in the waiting room of social services, the information about the divine feminine being shamed, and people are embarrassed to be in that position. That in order to get to the 5th dimension, in order to be there and be clean, all of our darkness, our negative emotions, etc., all of it has got to be gutted. So, and that's one of the things, we're certainly watching that in politics all over the place now. That's why we need, it's also why Trump was elected. It was a trick of the light side too. It was a gift of the light side. You wouldn't think so, but he's the one who's going trigger, 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 so that the collective pain body can be purged, because we all need to vomit all the stuff that we previously swallowed. It's really important. So I was realizing that as I was sitting in the waiting room, that all of this stuff, it wasn't so much that I needed to do something, because I'm not going to go around to all these people in the waiting room, but it just made me come to a realization of what needed to happen on an energetic platform, because one of my gifts, the things that I do, I said I don't work so much in the physical world, but I really am pretty freaking potent when it comes to directing very large energetic currents in space and manipulating them so that when they land into form, you get a better thing. Kind of like I get the shit out of the pantry so that when it comes, it doesn't wind up in your pie. And I was realizing that one of the things that needs to happen is that the masculine force, which is very active and assertive, that needs to be we have to be not embarrassed, no longer embarrassed to sit and be. So meditation could rise. That would be a good thing. We need to get, there needs to be less shame about receiving.
And you're speaking about the masculine.
Well, both. I mean,
women. Well, because without energetically, you're speaking of the man, and you're right about that, which is personified in the physical, primarily on the man, on the male incarnation, which is that whole, don't be a sissy, don't show your weakness, don't be soft. And this goes back to this profound epiphany that you brought to me today, which is, marry your most vulnerable with that highest aspect of yourself that can be untouched and almost seems cold to the human. Yeah,
totally. And the thing is that when you find, that's the alchemical marriage that you have to find within yourself, is the ability to be completely vulnerable and also completely, there's no courage without vulnerability.
Yeah.
It's the most courageous thing you can possibly do, is to actually go into total vulnerability, which is why I remember there was one post where you were crying and I just went apeshit over that. I shared that and I was just that just bent my head, because of this is what we need. This is the example of masculinity that we need. It's not a man being feminine. It's just someone being human, because you got the balance right. You're not afraid to do it. You're not afraid to go into the place that nobody else will go. That's the courageous part. So that's why, if the universe puts you back in a certain spot that you never wanted to go again, why the hell am I here? You're here to
create more magic,
stronger, and lead the way out, so that people who don't know what the fuck they're doing can get out. Yeah. That's why you're there.
Yeah. And the energy does it. It's not even our words. It's just the sheer intent.
Yes.
You talk about that. I remember that. Here we go with the synchronicities. My friends where I was on that back porch just sent me a note on Messenger with a beer saying cheers. They just got off work. But the thing was, and I remember that day very clearly, and I remember the goddess energy. It was the goddess energy again. And I was stepped out of my body, and I was okay, I'm the human right now. I need to talk to everybody. My passport just got turned down. I can't be with Morgan. And I literally said to myself, okay, if you guys don't give me something here, I'm gonna wait till tonight, slip my wrist, and jump in the lake.
Oh man, I've been there.
And I was then I saw in my universe, I saw the mother goddess stood before me and said, "Get your ass out there on that porch, turn on the camera, and just say it." And I had no idea. I had no idea what was going to happen. But
that was gift. That's the gift that you gave to everybody.
Yeah.
That transmission.
And would you say,
hell out of me?
Would you say? Thank you. Would you say? And I don't know. I'm just saying. Would you say that is the goddess energy? The being there, never giving up, being persevering, being vulnerable, being open with the emotions. That's the goddess energy.
It's funny. It's a really good question. I actually think that I would go back and watch it again. There's certainly goddess energy there, but I actually think that if I had to put something on it, I would say that's the point. That's 0 point. That's
0 point.
It's the point in that horrible alchemical cauldron. When they recruit you to shamanic college and you can't apply, they recruit you. And nobody wants to go because you're going to be burned alive. Here I am in the cauldron again. And there's a point of, the 0 point is the point between death and rebirth.
Yeah.
You haven't crawled out and you're flattened again. You're flattened again.
Yeah. And it's like you take an inhale, of life force, and it's that space in between.
Yeah.
Okay, if I blow this out, am I going to get another one?
Yeah, exactly. There was and this is another conversation, but I had a catastrophic illness for about 14, 16 years, and I wasn't expected to live. At one point, I was given 4 months to live. And the life force had drained to such a degree It was so bad that I remember the only rest I got. We should have a conversation about this somewhere. But the only rest I got at all was the space between breaths. Yeah. That I remember when I exhaled and I was so exhausted. And then somehow there would be like this long pause where even I was looking, observing it from a place of detachment going, is she going to take another breath? I don't know if it's going to happen. And then
it's like you step out. It's like you step out.
And here I am again. But that's happened to me so many times. But you never want to go there. It's never fun.
That's true, though. That's true. That's like being in a car.
Are the ones that do it. The warriors are the toughest ones. I have noticed this. Somebody else, another man who impressed the hell out of me the other day. A couple of it was probably like 4 months ago, and he said something, and I did such a double take, and it had exactly to do with death and rebirth. He said, as somebody who does a lot of ayahuasca, which I have never done. I've never done any drugs. I took marijuana once, and
I took marijuana. You can always tell when someone's like Morgan. You can always tell when someone's a goody two shoes. They'll say, "I took marijuana one time."
Right.
Like it's some kind of pill or something.
You know, it's funny. It's in my case, it was my father's. He had cancer, and he had put a whole bunch of it in butter, and I put it on my toast. I ate a bunch of it, and I thought, this is disgusting, but I don't want to eat I don't want to waste the food, so I ate it anyway. And I was not prepared, and never having done anything like that before in my life. But so I've never done ayahuasca, but I have heard a lot of people say that there's this horrible, you purge, you have diarrhea, and there's this death and rebirth process. I've heard that from a lot of people. Yeah. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and it was about spiritual warfare. And one of the things, he leads ayahuasca retreats, and he's done ayahuasca so many times that he's done it over 100 times. He takes people down. He's a Scorpio, like mega Scorpio, because you'd have to be, wouldn't you? And what the thing that he said that I thought, holy crap, that is hardcore. It really did impress me. Like, I've done a lot of shit, and I'm tough. But he said, I was like, why do you take so much? Is it just like you're just a druggie, or you're trying to escape reality? And he said, that's for people. There are people who do that. But he said, I go to work.
Yeah.
I go into and that's what impressed me. He goes into the darkness to die, so that he can reach that point to go even deeper, to do the transformative work. And that's why I remember I turned around and I was like, I don't even know what the hell to say to that, because I've been through the alchemical cauldron so many times, more than anybody else I know. I've been to the death part, and I would do everything never to go back. I never want to.
Well, yeah. And I hate that shit. As soon as you say that, then you get put. I just want to break in for a second. The lady I was referring to today just put a comment up, and I just want to say, God, I hope I don't start crying. It's too early. But I just want to say to Edith Ann that you really lifted me up today. I didn't reach out to anybody, and to see that comment and the post that you put up lifted me energetically. And I just want to say thank you to Edith Ann and to everybody else who's been there to support us and love us and make contributions. I'm sorry. Thank you for letting me say that.
Oh, man. Bring it in. I love it.
Yeah. Somebody, and Sue Baxter Fitz asked, probably don't have enough time for both, but I don't know how you feel. I know this is your first time on camera, and I just want to say that's an honor. And again, for those of you who don't know, this is our 600th episode.
I'm thrilled.
But she asked if you could do some light language.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how do you feel about that? You okay?
No, I only just started. Now it's 6:19. I only just, I was wondering if that was going to come in today. And yeah, it only just started to come back in, is starting to come in differently now than it had previously. So the first thing, if you don't mind, I'll do some of that right now. So I'd like to connect with our highest level spiritual guys. And one of the things I wanted to do today was bring in the, connect all on the level that's up here. Connect all, our highest level guides are always connected, but there is, I'm very well aware, a neural net for it. It's like a neural net. There is a telepathic network that is forming that looks a great deal like the way coral forms. It looks like a circulatory system. It's a circulatory system. And at some point, this is going to wind, this is where we generate the superabundance. There is a level in 5D and above where we are all connected, and the telepathic superabundance, where I had written a post about the educational system. If you don't mind, I'm closing my eyes and I'm just gonna focus on this for a second. The telepathic superabundance that is going to be within the field in the future is now being formed. And at some point, I would like to talk about the way that happens, because the way, I guess it's coming in now. Okay. I'm just going to allow it to happen, whatever happens. I'm not sure you can see all of this that's happening. Are we okay?
Here, hang on. Let me put you on the screen by yourself. Go ahead.
Oh, really? There is a the way neural nets are formed. I'm very surprised this is coming in. I didn't think this was going to come in. I knew that we were going to wind up connecting groups with groups, but this is actually goes off into, it feels like a whole other pond. You know, the way, if you think of a baby's brain, it's newly formed in physicality, but the way a baby learns language is that the neural nets are pruned. It's a reductionist process that happens within physicality. The process of language is reductionist. The opposite thing is going to happen in the higher realms as we develop this neural network, where we're all kind of going up there alone. We're going through a process by which it's a little bit like going up in an elevator, and when the elevator doors, it feels very alone while you're in the elevator. But when the doors open, you're going to, while you're in the elevator, let me say that, while you're in the elevator, you go up to exactly the right level for you, as light as you can go. And when the elevator doors open, you're going to be with a group of people who match your level exactly. It's going to feel just like home. And you can reach onto that. So one of the things that's helpful is that we've got to remember is that we've got this physical form, and it feels so alone sometimes when we're in this physical form. And if we can establish a neural net that's up here and really we're holding on to one another mentally, and this is where you're holding on to God, and God is always holding on to you. But if you're holding on to God, and it's almost like you've got a invisible hermit crab claw, and you're just going to hold on to that fucker, and you're not going to let go no matter what the hell happens to you on the lower levels. You're just going to hold on to that thing, and the cord's never going to break as long as you don't let go. The separation, the experience of separation is going to happen if you let go.
Yeah.
God's never going to let go of you. But if you let go, that's where you're going to feel the isolation, and that's where you're going to experience a crash. That's where we're tempted to let go, is where, and when, you know, real death is a joy, but the experience of the feeling of separation is the experience of death. That's the place where we let go of faith. That's the place, you experience the desperation when you think no one has your back. So what you really need to do is just hold on to that thing. And these are your people. So the people at your own level, and you need to just have that in your mind all the time and be connected with your tribe energetically. And this is where all your power is going to come from. And I cannot tell you, well, I can't tell you, I will tell you, the number of times when I have certainly had a crisis of faith, and when I rewound, Rick Jewers and I are functioning together on this mental level where we're at the same level. So that's where a lot of these these messages are coming from particular strata. So if he gets a message and we're both seeing the same thing, because on that, at least, it doesn't have to be an intentional telepathy. Sometimes when people think of telepathy, it's like, I'm going to beam you something. That's not really the way it works. It's mostly just like a field that kind of like if you poke your head out of water, if everybody's swimming underneath the water, and you stick your head out of the water, you can take a glance around and you can just see who else has their head out of the water, and you could very easily have, you get the information about them, you know what they look like, and you could very easily have a conversation that's above the heads of everybody else who's swimming. It works that way. So I know that there are a number of people, a fairly small group, but it's a consistent group on Facebook where I will get a piece of information. Rick Jewers will have the same information. They're just certain people who have this, and we can kind of try, or at least I can kind of triangulate and figure out from who has it, who else got that information, where we are in the strata. I can kind of triangulate what it is, and it gives me more information. The people who are getting a different level of information, that tells me something too. But that's the way that the tribe that you need to connect with is just the tribe that you naturally connect with mentally. It's like level wherever the elevator doors opened for you. That's important. So and here's another thing. Everyone watching this message today, if these words are reaching your ears, it's because this message is for you. There's nothing that's random at all. There's the specific combination of people who are here now are a group for a reason. We have a like vibration. We're here for a reason. So I'm just going to go ahead really quick and connect that. It's funny. This is not the fast language that I usually use. I do know that my body moves a lot faster. When I'm standing, one of the reasons I didn't recognize my light language when it came in is because, or when it started to come in, it didn't look like I was expecting it to. There are people who speak light language that I think I have long admired, and I wanted that, like Donna Lightsey. She has lasers in her. It sounds beautiful. It's so biblical, and she's just brings in these things, and it's elegant. And I just was like, wow, that is such a skill. I freaking love that. And I wanted that to come through me. And now, first of all, I didn't appreciate what I had. I didn't know that, and now I do, but I only just now know it. My light language is, it comes through movement and my hands, for the reason that I'm going to need doing the work that I will be doing going forward. I'm going to need to keep talking. So if I, launched into light language, it could interrupt the flow of linear language. And one of my jobs is to create bridges. So I need to speak in linear way as well as do very non-linear. So that's one of the things that's going to happen. But I would just link us really quick. Let's just say that's done. And
there you go.
I've got this lizard too. And as long as we're linking realms, that's what's happening here. This is Carmen.
Hello, Carmen.
Yeah. So she's going to sit on my shoulder. Thank you. I don't know why. I don't know why it's not. We're not touching the reptilians exactly. I don't know why, but we have them here. Okay. I'm just going to let that happen. Oh, it has something to do with Earth. Okay. So it has to do something with abundance and Earth. Yes. And cold-blooded. Okay, cold-blooded detachment. That's why. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful. It's the two ends of the rubber band that you were talking about.
Yes. Yes.
the emotionless higher self and the totally vulnerable, beautiful human heart.
Which is so funny because everybody thinks, and this is one of the reasons probably Kenji is here. He's gone to sleep in his basket. But you know, myself included, I used to think that that reptiles, of all the pets, I used to think of them as having no warmth because they're cold-blooded. Yeah. And I have discovered, particularly with these two, I know the turtles do too. I've had other friendly animals, but I've never had a reptile before. And I wanted to be a herpetologist. I've never had a reptile before that was actually snuggly, that sought out people, not for warmth, because it could be totally warm, but just like plain likes people. Like Kenji spends most of his day on my kitchen table, and he's in a basket, but when people walk by, he pokes his head out to see who's there. He's got oh, that's why. Okay, thank you. The animal kingdoms, the oversouls, everyone is ascending. It's not just us. Everyone's ascending. We're all getting new levels of awareness. Thank you very much for that. That came from Kenji. He doesn't just crawl under a rock and hide anymore. That's for lower 3D snakes. There's a difference in all animals, including us. There's a big difference between being awake in 3D and being someone in 5D who's awake, because there's a new level of awareness. You're like, shit, I thought I knew stuff, and I did for that level. But now it's kind of like every time you go up a rung, you see more stuff. So thank you very much. Are you okay? Here, you want it? You okay? I love you. I'll see you in a minute. If you need to come back out, you tell me. Angie's the one sending me messages, though.
Okay. There you go.
He knows stuff, though. He really does. I've seen it. Any other questions? Does somebody have any questions? I love to answer questions.
We're, let's see. I don't know if you want to do, you want to try some light language?
I don't speak light language. I mostly do.
No, it's emotions. Yeah.
It's mostly motion.
Yeah, so you were, that's what you were saying. So you were speaking it, but also at the linear level, explain it. Yeah, that was, and I, you know, as I was talking to Shakara Tosh, who does light language and then what she calls star language. And she was talking about her journey, and she was talking about a few years ago, there was like maybe 100 or 1,000 people doing it, and more people are doing it. And one of my takes on it is I've been doing these shows, is everyone has their own. I mean, there's the ancient, there's the ancient and the stars and this and all that, but that we're actually, you know, through our own individuality, developing our own sacred songs or light language and that type of thing. Yeah.
And that is such a key component that is actually really essential for our ascension as a species. One of the things that are we going to go into this topic altogether? You know, everybody's composition. We are a collection of light strands that contain all of these light coded information that looks like, very much like, it's not coaxial cable, what's it? Fiber optics. Looks very much like fiber optics. And every single person on the planet is a specific, different, totally different. It's essential. The unique quality is essential. A unique combination. And So I guess we are going to get into this conversation, which I wasn't going to, but okay. Not deeply, but one of the things that, one of the things I wanted to talk about are mechanics. Energy has anatomy, and the universe has mechanics, energetic anatomy, circuitry.
Yeah, circuitry.
There's a circulation system that energy travels in very specific, very predictable ways. One of the and that's going to take us down a whole road of history. It's like I could talk to you for 6 hours.
We can do it. We can do it again.
I will say just this. You can have a template being similar to Joan of Arc or Cleopatra. You know how like a lot of people have said they were Cleopatra. Everybody Joan of Arc. Everybody said. The reason that happens is because there are certain people that come down at critical people. They're beings that come down in order to initiate a template pattern. Yeah. And it's a little bit like when Toll House cookies were invented. It was an idea that everybody has their own little variation. You can take a little bit, you can take one ingredient from a Toll House cookie, or you can take almost all of that same recipe and just tweak one little thing. Or you could, do a whole other thing completely and really make it your own. Every person is like that. And that is the way that we get so much information. Dogs are very advanced. They, stringing energy like music. Yes. I've lost my train of thought. It's 636. Dogs have a very developed, very sophisticated way that they identify one another. Where they're sniffing, they can catch a smell, and they get all of this information about the other dog. When we go up to our strata with our family, and eventually all of this is going to fill in and we're going to be able to do it with everything. But for the time being, the first stages of that are we're going to connect with our soul family, and there's an energetic signature that we're going to recognize. And this is one of the ways that we're being called toward our soul family. By like vibrations. It's like, oh, you are a chocolate chip cookie recipe too. I also make a chocolate chip cookie. And even though you're all these different variations, those of you who are making, or those of us who have this light quality, are going to just naturally gravitate toward one another. But when I
think that is happening. I was just thinking about last night, Shakara, Tosh, and Morgan and I had a conversation because Shakara had some transmissions come in about Morgan and I, but what brought it to mind was she said to Morgan, I saw your signature, I saw your energetic signature.
Yes.
I can't really describe it, in human words, but and I think you're right. I think we are all coming together.
Totally.
So let's do this. We've got we went over about a little over half hour. It's okay. I just got to get prepared for the other two shows. But what I wanted to say is, let's go another 5 or 6 minutes, and you just whatever subject you want to talk about or whatever you want to do.
Oh, great. I don't know what feels like coming in. Oh, thank you. Let's take. I'm surprised. Okay, we'll just go with it. Let's talk about Nasara Gasara, the RV, and the gold standard. This is one of the ways I think we're going to get out of poverty. And I think this is going to prove in the future to be really popular. And I also get the sense that somehow, I don't want to speak, I'm certainly not going to speak for him, but somehow I feel like I have a link with Rick Jewers, that we're going to work together somehow on this specific thing. There's somehow, we're going to do something there. I don't know, I recognize something. One of the things I think is going to happen, thank you, there seem to be two dominant, this is why I think it has something to do with Rick Jewers, because he was the one who gave me the piece of information that said we have to get out of the monetary system completely. And I completely agree, because I definitely recognize that as being higher up the vibrational scale, because it's total freedom. But I do think that when we talk about a ladder and every single rung being important, I think that, you know, there's been a lot of talk about the global currency reset. And I think that this is one of the things that is going to be a bridging aspect. I think it's really important. The bridging aspects, or the bridging stages, are stages that have some aspect that is rooted in the old, that provides enough tangibility or enough solidity that the people beneath it, who are used to, you know, babies need cribs. The people who are used to confinement, the people who like the 3D ways, that they like the tradition, this is the way you do it, and they want to see everything built in a very Lego-like fashion. The people who find that comforting, who need that because that's where they are, there has to be some, they're going to be upset enough when there's a global currency reset. I do think that we can't jump from a society that uses money, particularly the monetary system that we have now, to one that is totally moneyless, and it's not barter, it's just instant manifestation, because the people down here have no fucking idea. They're terrified, and plus they don't know how to control their thinking well enough to even do it, so we can't even have them have that yet. The global currency reset is going, I believe, is going to provide a middle ground. And the reason it's going to be a huge step up is because, number one, the cabal is going to be not involved. And it's going to have a tangible basis in truth, something that is real. So the thing that we have to do first is go to a tangible system, this is the bridge, that is rooted in something honest.
Yeah.
That's the integrity. Once we have the integrity back, and this is what I do think, that there are arteries, people who are going to function as arteries of distribution for mass quantities of this, who are there to, within the circulatory system that we're currently building, those of us who have a very powerful drive to serve, are going to receive a large amount, kind of like if you gave every capillary global reset money, that wouldn't necessarily be the way to go. You need to feed it to an artery, who's then going to give it to a vein, who's then the capillaries. Everyone's going to eat. Yeah, we're going to make sure that happens.
Yeah. That's a very interesting subject. And I've seen people go back and forth on it. You know, my own take on it is, you know, how deep does the rabbit hole go? Yeah. You know, the rabbit hole never stops going. So as far as and it all goes back to self-empowerment, self-responsibility, self-love.
Yes.
You know, and I just look at it, you know, is it a program? Who's behind it? Who planted that seed? I don't know. Whether it came from the ethers or the physical world, I don't really care. I don't trust anything, and I don't mean that. I don't mean that in a way that I don't love anything, because I believe love is trust. But that's probably another 2-hour episode right there. Because
this last point. This actually does go back to, I started to mention it before, and then we passed it. So I'm glad we're wrapping back around. In the waiting room of social services, one of the things that must be boosted in the population at large is number one, their sovereignty, which we know we've needed, but the people the two things, in order to rebalance any polarity, the ones at the top who have been fed by, you know, socially, who have been fed, like, basically they're the kings. This is where the Joan of Arc story provides the balance. Can you go before a king when you are a beggar with no loss of self-respect at all? No. And view that person as an equal? And can you, as a king, be in front of a beggar with no sense of superiority? Both of these things have got to be made level. Yeah. And if we want to close on anything, we should close on that. That's what has to happen.
Well, you know, yeah. And again, we were talking about this on one of the last two shows, and it's, you know, I don't know. Maybe at the end of the day, all these people, the kings and the beggars, they're all just like us. And this consciousness, which is formed in matter, you know, yeah. I mean, you know, they're going through the same thing that we are, whether it be a Trump or whether it be whoever, you know. But I think it's a fascinating thing. It still gets back to the self-reliance, discernment, and our own faith in ourselves that we are the universe. So I just got to say, this has been an incredible hour and 46 minutes, 6:46.
I'm delighted.
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking at the New York time. It's 6:46 on 10/6, and this is the 600th show, and that means something.
Absolutely.
I want to thank everybody for sticking with us for an hour and 45 minutes. I just want to announce real quick, we're going to have a show in, let's see, that'll be 2 hours and 15 minutes with Joe Kovacs, which will be real interesting. And then we have 2 hours after that with Daniel Scranton out of Hawaii, who is incredible. So this has been a good start to the day. I just want to thank you for honoring us, sharing space with us, and allowing us to be the platform for your first, you know, live, your first video.
Thank you.
I'd love to have you back.
No, it's fine. Jazz, jazz hands.
I'd love to have you back. You're incredible. Thank you for your service to humanity.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on the 600th show. I really appreciate it. You take care. Thank you so much. Best to you and all your menagerie of sentient beings, the snake and the turtles. And I just have to ask you one last question. How many animals do you have?
Right now, I'm in a 1-bedroom apartment, so not very many. I've got 2 dogs, a lizard, a snake, a bird. I do have a wild pet squirrel, but that's it. But I've usually hundreds. Usually hundreds.
Yeah. Well, you take care. Best to you. Best to you and yours. See everybody in a couple hours.
Soon. Bye.
I'll connect with you soon. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.